Welcome back, everybody, to the newest episode of the New York Only podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harms, founder and principal broker of the Time Away Realty Group. And I'm joined here today by Sam Weiner, vice president at Langdon Title. How are you today, Sam?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. I appreciate you being here. I know we're only a couple days before Thanksgiving, not to date the recording, but I really appreciate you making the time to talk to us about what you and your company do.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to.
I know for me, even as a real estate broker, a real estate investor who's been party to probably approaching 100 transactions, there is kind of this, I don't know what the word I'm even looking for here, this mystery around title, right? Everyone's like, oh, we're waiting for title, or we've got to order title. And it's just this imaginary thing that goes on behind the scenes that everyone's just waiting for someone to say title's back and we're clear. So please, in your own words, tell everyone what happens once the attorney orders that magical title.
No, I totally get it, because it's such a niche sector, you could say, of real estate, but it's probably the most important part of every purchase and refinance, because you can't close without us. So, I'm happy to. Would you like me to go through a little bit about what title insurance is, the process, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things you just hit on the head is, and actually, I'm going to back that up a little bit for everyone who's maybe not aware, but real estate requirements are different in every single state, right? So not every state requires a real estate attorney at closing. Sometimes the bank is the only one that has their attorney there. New York is definitely a litigious state, so attorneys are involved in everything. But title, universal, all 50 states, you cannot close a transaction without getting a clean title.
Correct.
So you could explain what the heck that means.
It's so funny. Yeah. So title insurance is really the easiest way to describe it. Is title insurance is the way to protect buyers against past events, right? So we make sure that all title issues, which I'll get into in a second, what title issues are resolved by the completion of closing. The thing with title insurance compared to other types of insurance is you only purchase title insurance once. So you pay a one-time premium at closing, and your policy is valid for the entire ownership of the property. So I'm happy to get into a little further details. Let me first just give a little brief introduction of my firm, Langdon Title. So we are a New York-based title insurance agent. We handle both residential and commercial real estate transactions. Title insurance is done on all purchases and refinances. We are licensed within New York and New Jersey. We're currently in the process of expanding to Pennsylvania and Florida, but we partner with all the major underwriters, which gives us the ability to really be a national firm and handle any deal anywhere across the country. Residentially, we try to stick within the East Coast, primarily New York and New Jersey, and then Pennsylvania and Florida as discussed. But commercially, we really could handle any deal, any size, anywhere across the country by partnering with these underwriters and other relationships we have within the title industry. And really our staff, I head up our sales and business development initiatives, but other than myself, we have experienced attorneys and support staff who review all title searches and documents to make sure, as we discussed, everything's clear for closing. So let me get into literally more nitty gritty of what title insurance is. I'm not going to get into too much details because one, I don't want to bore anybody, and two, I don't want to say any false information, but
stick to what the heck are you insuring against? Like, why do I need you?
So there's two types of title policies, right? There's an owner's policy, which is when you're becoming an owner of a property. Almost all purchasers of real property, let's just stick to New York right now. In New York, purchase a title insurance owner's policy when they purchase a new property, whether it's your home that you're going to live in, your condo that you're going to live in. It could be an investment property. It could really be anything that you're going to purchase to be the title transferred to your name. Then there's also a lender's policy, which we do for refinance transactions and all loans, which is required by all the lenders, whether banks, private lenders, etc. There's something also called an Eagle 9 policy, but it's more rare and nothing to go over really in details, So usually title insurance is ordered when the contract is signed. Now, you mentioned quickly about the attorneys, right? The actual buyer or borrower has the ultimate say of who they want to use for title insurance, right? But a lot of times, nobody knows what title insurance is. I mean, mostly real estate professionals will know title insurance, but like if you're in, let's just say finance or I don't know, construction, I mean, I'm just naming random fields, you're buying your home to move to the suburbs, you're not thinking of title insurance. So a lot of the times, especially on the residential end, your real estate transactional attorney representing you on the buy side will choose title insurance, right? So it's very important for us to build existing relationships, strong relationships with these attorneys. But this title insurance is ordered one of the first things once the contract is signed. So it's very important for you to recommend the title firm of your choice to your attorney as soon as possible. Earlier the better, really. Another fun fact is our rates are regulated by the state. It usually costs between around, I would say 0.3 to 0.4% of the purchase price. The exact amount of title insurance really depends on the purchase price and if you're getting a mortgage. It's dictated by, as I said, by the purchase price loan amount. So the larger the transaction, the higher your title insurance cost will be. But every title firm should be charging around the same price across the board. The actual premium is fixed. So if one title firm is charging much more than another, that means they're charging ancillary fees that they probably shouldn't be. So keep an eye on price because it should be generally the same across the board. And as I said, there's no really discounts other than statutory discounts. I mean, so it's really, it's not like you could negotiate pricing with title firms, but it is important to keep an eye out so that if you're given one that you don't know, and they're charging more than what we give, like there's a reason. So it's kind of just some fun facts around it. I mean, what we really provide for you is a title commitment, right? It's the document which the title insurer really discloses all of the information, whether liens, defects, burden, obligations, making sure that everything is handled before closing. So it's like, who's being insured, the amount of the insurance, what's being insured, what's required to be insured, what's not to be insured. It's really making sure that we're uncovering all the issues. Now, to get into a little more details quickly there, most searches that we run are lien searches, which uncovers any tax liens, mechanic liens, any issues regarding that. Mortgage searches uncovers any outstanding mortgages. So if you're buying a property off somebody, but they haven't paid off your mortgage, we're going to make sure that's handled before closing. Judgment searches, really uncovering any pending litigation involving past property owners or current property owners. And encumbrances, which is really the most popular, which uncovers any restrictions, easements, encroachments, making sure your driveway is a certain amount of the right amount of dimensions. Your fence is 10 yards not into your property where you have more land that you could build your fence off of, stuff like that. Those are really what we're uncovering to make sure everything is clear. And that the best way I like to say it is that no one can ever knock on your door and say, hey, this property's mine. We're ensuring that it's yours. So the general question that a lot of people ask is like when they're paying this 0.3 to 0.4% closing is, do I really need title insurance? I mean, it's pretty much required for two reasons. First, if you're getting a mortgage or you're refinancing your property, your lender is going to require a lender's policy to cover the mortgage amount. Since the property is their collateral, they want to make sure they're covered in the case that the property was sold fraudulent, So that's one reason. And then if you're paying cash, like that's the only way that people really can get away with it because your attorney or lender won't, there is none really if you're paying cash, but your attorney won't allow it. And like, you're really risking and exposing yourself to any issues that the property could be fraudulently sold or it's just not yours. So one fun fact about really where title insurance really isn't done is you don't need title insurance when you're buying a co-op. Co-ops, you're buying shares in the building. So it's essentially the right to live in a specific apartment. You're not buying the apartment itself. So you don't have to pay the actual title insurance. You just pay a lien search, which is very, very cheap. It's relative cheap. I shouldn't say. I should say the word is less expensive, where it comes out to around $350 plus sales tax. So that's general the gist about that. I think I'm kind of going all over the place. Anything
No, no,
specifically I didn't hit?
You've covered a lot of the things that I'm sure people are wondering, like, why the heck do I, like, what is this money going toward? But I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because I can imagine some people sitting at home thinking, all right, so Sam just took me through, they're searching for this, they're searching for that. Why could not Joe do it yourself? Say, you know what? I don't need you guys. I'm just going to search all this myself.
He doesn't have the access to the examiners, the underwriters. You have to be a licensed title firm. There's so many factors. It's like, if you don't want to pay your attorney, like you didn't pass the bar exam. You're not a licensed attorney. If you want to be a broker for yourself, you need to get your New York State real estate salesperson license. There's licenses and information that needed to become a title agent.
Right. So the general public can't just walk into the local county clerk's office and say, I need all of these documents.
No. And if you do, good luck.
Actually, this will probably come up in a question later, but it's funny you say that, because I can't even imagine walking into any government office and getting an answer to anything, let alone the 6 or 7 things you rattled off. You'll probably give up months of your life if you try.
Pretty much.
So what's set? So you hit on titles kind of commoditized. It's price set by the state. So no one company can say, hey, come to us, we're going to charge you less. What are, in your opinion, what are some of the things that make one title company stand out from another, where a buyer should say to their attorney, who are you using for title and why?
And that's really the golden question, right? Because as I said, a lot of our prices are fixed across the board. So it's very important to be a value add to your clients. Most importantly, of course, is providing exceptional service, making sure that the work is being done and we're clear to close, right? That's the most important. Keeping the files top of mind and actually making sure the files are closing and all the work is done properly. But what I said, to be a value add, what's very important for me is being able to give my clients the proper referrals, introductions, leads, access to off-market deals, making the proper introductions to being able to drive business and help grow their business, additionally to providing the exceptional service on the title front. So I think that's really where you could kind of stand out. And then additional to that, it's really building those meaningful relationships that they can trust you and knowing that you're going to do the work needed to help their business grow and close. So.
And I'm so glad you said that, because that's almost the exact same question could be asked of a real estate agent or broker, right? Why would I work with one over the other? You all do the same thing. And on the buyer side, right, usually your buyer's not paying you anyway. So why do I care who I work with? But much like you just said, there are so many moving pieces in a real estate transaction that knowing the relationships and knowing who does what and being able to put those parties together. When I know, like our last deal that we did together, which by the way, I think Sam got me title in record time of any deal that I've ever done. But when you know who your title lender is, you know who the attorney is, you know who the mortgage lender is, and you have an open line of communication with all of them, that's why you should choose a professional, is based on their network and how they're going to get all of those people working together to close your transaction. Yep. When your title guy doesn't speak to your attorney and your attorney doesn't speak to the mortgage officer and the realtor doesn't know any of the 4 personally, you're in for a really rough road to closing.
Yep. You hit on the nose. So.
Right. And you have always been incredibly communicative. That's, even in this market, right? If there's an issue with title, cash deals aren't necessarily going to close in 30 days, right? You guys are going to bring that title. Let me back that up, because I don't want to assume what you're going to do. So let's say you guys find an issue on title when you're doing your searches.
Sure.
What happens? Like, what's the protocol?
We're going to work with the examiners and the underwriters to really handle this as soon as possible. There's no specific protocol because there could be different types of issues that arise. But, between counsel internally and externally and with the underwriters and examiners and, as you said, the county clerks and everything, we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to get this resolved as quick as possible. And I really haven't had too many situations, if any, that we weren't able to close. So, it's more of a timing thing and resolving thing, but we're one of the best that we can make it happen. So.
Got it. Now this may or may not have, I'm sure it hasn't happened at Langdon, but in your experience, have you ever found after the fact that a title company made an error on their title policy?
I don't have any specific scenarios that I can refer to, so let's just say that. I think is
Okay.
the best way to do it.
In the event, the unlikely event, someone were to make, a random brand new title company, they don't know what they're doing, they made a mistake. I'm assuming that's why it's called insurance, right?
Right. Well, that's where the underwriters really come into play. That's why we're partnering with these underwriters on these deals. So they're really the ones insuring the product, making sure that these issues aren't happening. And if they do arise, like you mentioned, working with the underwriters to make sure they're fixed. So that's kind of the general gist, you know?
And I imagine it's very much like an E&O, errors and omissions policy. If a title company's screw, you're probably out of business after that screw up because no
Yeah,
under.
that's the goal. The goal is not to have those. So I can't
Right.
speak too much. I can't speak in too much details, but yeah.
I get it. That wasn't to put you on the spot. I know you guys are excellent at what you do. I'm just sure there's people out there thinking, right? You've got insurance in general just has such a negative connotation to it. People hear insurance and they immediately think car insurance or sleazy life insurance salesman, whereas title insurance, and I say this from a place of I've had homeowners who after they've paid off their mortgage, they've dropped their property insurance. And I'm like, are you
So
crazy?
that's the general gist we described. We're not the same at all against homeowners insurance. We're protecting the buyers against past events when homeowners insurance is protecting buyers against future events. We're resolving all issues by closing. Their policies don't go into effect until the premium is paid. And you only purchase title insurance once, and the policy is valid for the entire ownership. You need to purchase homeowners insurance annually to be renewed. So there's many differences from other types of insurances out there, especially homeowners, like you mentioned.
Right. And for anyone of that mindset who's like, well, I'm buying this cash, I don't need the title insurance. I'll take my chances. And since the bank's not, there's no bank, I don't need property insurance. We're in New York, right? What's the median home price? $5.25 million, $550,000.
Yeah, I was going to say $500,000. Yeah.
Yeah, that's no small chunk of change to just say, yeah, I don't need to insure against past issues, and I don't care about future issues. You'd kind of be crazy.
Right. So, no, I wouldn't suggest it. That's all I'm saying.
Sam, what do you see, if anything, any upcoming changes to title or the way companies are going to work going into 2023? Any slowdown in home purchasing?
So one thing, I don't like to go too much into it, is like a lot of people discuss title insurance revolving around the blockchain. I stick with what I know and what we do. So we're not involved in that. And I don't see any imminent changes within the blockchain and title insurance, because as you mentioned, these county clerk's offices, they have so many documents. It would take not even, it's the time and manpower to actually get it all on the blockchain. And how is that going to happen? So it's something that we're just going to focus about what we do and keep our policies and agendas the way we do it until a change is needed. And then you said in the current markets, everybody's discussing the inflation, the current interest rates and everything, which, don't get me wrong, has definitely slowed down transactions, and we're a very transactional sector. So we've seen more of a slowdown, but recently a lot of people need to close for obvious reasons by year end. So we've actually been busy the past couple of months and the upcoming month. And then, it's important for the next, I would say for the first, I don't know, you could say the beginning of 2023, it's to, keep networking, keep on top and providing value to your clients, because people will still be transacting. Maybe the numbers will be down compared to this year or past years, but people will be transacting, and you want to get those deals when they're being transacted. So that's really my advice on top of what I've been seeing in the current market, I would say.
Got it. I love it. And to that point, for anyone that may be kind of spinning their wheels on, we've been very spoiled for the last 7-8 years with interest rates where they are. People almost forget that there was 20-30 years ago, we had double-digit interest rates. People still bought homes.
Exactly.
People are still going to need a place to live.
Exactly.
Investors are still going to need a place to put their money. Folks who have sold real estate and have to do a 1031 exchange, they don't care where the rates are at. They'd rather not pay the government the money for the tax hit. So we're gonna see some slowdowns, like I've seen it, but in the under $500,000 range, the average price range, the sticker shock for someone who's buying their first home versus what they're paying in rent, because rents are at all-time highs right now
All-time
as
highs.
well, you
Mhm.
still got a better value putting your money in a home if it's your forever purchase or your long-term purchase.
Correct.
Love it.
I agree. Yeah.
Sam, where can people find out more about you, about Langdon, if they have questions about working with you, or if they want to make sure their attorney speaks to you so they can use you for future deals? How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to share my contact information. You can find it whether on our website, any social media, LinkedIn, please feel free to reach out. Any way possible. And I would love to speak to anybody regarding whether title insurance or just any way we could build a relationship and help one another. So, yeah.
I will have all of your information in the show notes. So anyone who's interested can go directly to you. If anyone has any questions about anything first, you're always welcome to reach out to me, Matt@timeawaygroup.com. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. One of my favorite parts about this show is I'm not just out here interviewing people for the sake of interviewing. Every guest on my show has been someone that I've worked with extensively, who's done the right thing by my clients. And I know there's going to be tremendous value for anyone who has a need or a question to be able to get in touch with professionals like yourself. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you having me.
It's my pleasure. So for everyone listening, we thank you for tuning in. Please head over to our website at timeawaygroup.com. Head over to Sam's website for Langdon Title. Everything will be in the show notes, and we're always happy to help you figure out a solution to all your real estate needs by putting you in touch with the right people. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.